And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Around the Bases with Bubba and Mo, episode 24. Man, we've been doing this a little while now. It's kind of nice. I am once again Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at BDintric, and my co-host, as always, Mo. You can find him on Twitter at Boston_Mo. Mo, how we doing tonight?
Doing well. Let's get after it, Bubba.
Yeah, we'll kick right into it. We mentioned it a little bit last week. I know you really wanted to talk about this, as this is kind of in your backyard. We buried the Yankees. We buried them, and they're hanging around. So let's talk AL East. You got your Red Sox at 63 and 49, 3 games up on those Yanks, 5.5 on the Rays, 7 on the O's, 10.5 on the Jays. What are your thoughts, big man?
Well, I think burying the Yankees is a little much. I'm not sure that we buried them like we buried the Blue Jays. I think I said the Yankees fans have to have realistic expectations. Having said that, Brian Cashman, obviously, as I said last week, had a great trade deadline because he didn't trade any of the top guys. He kept Torres, he kept Frazier, and he traded big-time prospects that were hurt. Because Billy Beane said, you know what, we're not going to win this year, we're not going to win next year. We can wait on the 2 guys, and it's no problem. So I don't think we buried them per se, but at the same time, now I'm not going to listen. They've got kind of the Royals mold of a couple of years ago when they won the World Series, where their bullpen is top notch. I mean, it's incredible. It really is. It might be better than that Royals bullpen of the World Series year. But the Severino, he's been great. There's no doubt about it. The innings limit, I mean, what happens when he gets into October, into the big time? I don't know. I think he's great. Sonny Gray, he's good, but you don't know yet, coming from Oakland and that big arc to New York. And then the big thing that hits me is their hitting is finally coming back to earth. Aaron Judge, and don't say it's the home run derby. It's not. He's coming back to earth a little bit because he just wasn't going to keep up that pace. Castro's hurt again. We both said he was going to come back to earth. The last 30 days, Clint Frazier's batting .230 with a .264 WP, and he's striking out almost 30%. Matt Holliday can't stay healthy again. The only guy that's really been hitting the last 30 days, consistently is Didi Gregorius. So, another one of our topics that we'll probably just end up skipping, Bubba, is, the whole hold for Judge, and then Gary Sanchez is now he can't catch all of a sudden. They had to sit him for that. It's kind of tricky in Yankeeville there in the Bronx. It's not all that it seems. Are they going to make the playoffs? Yes, they probably are, because of that bullpen and because of Severino, and Gray will be great. The Red Sox I'm telling you, this month is going to be the most interesting month. And then I'll let you talk about your Rays, because the Red Sox are playing Cleveland. We got a quick 2-game series with Tampa. We've got the Yankees this weekend. We got Cleveland coming up. We get a tricky one with St. Louis, even though they're not great, but it's still tricky because they're still the Cardinals. I still think the Red Sox win this division because I think they have a better rotation top to bottom. I think their bullpen is probably top 4 in the AL with Kelly back and Addison Reed. And the pitching Reed in higher leverage situations, whether it's the 7th or the 8th. Still got Kimbrel. Now Matt Barnes, maybe your 4th guy. Not to ramble on, but I still think the Red Sox have enough to win that division. I'm curious to see what you think now that I've rambled on for 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. The Red Sox should win the division unless something catastrophic happens. The Addison Reed addition was much needed for that bullpen to kind of shore it up to get to Kimbrel, because he's been dominant. Eduardo Nunez deal, man, he was hitting fine in San Francisco. He's injured a lot. He is loving that monster in left field. He is just having a great time there. Now they go on the road. We'll see if he keeps the production up in Tampa Bay. Right now, the Yankees are an interesting one still, because yes, their offense has just hit a roadblock. Frazier, we knew it. I'm talking Todd Frazier. No average, little bit of power, and that's all he's done. You got Chase Headley, of all people, playing first base right now. That wasn't envisioned when you started the season. You had to expect regression from Aaron Judge. We saw that coming. I think he's struck out in almost every game, if not every game, since the All-Star break. Again, nothing to do with the Derby, like you said. So I agree with pretty much everything you were saying. The interesting part is they're talking about sending Clint Frazier down when
Hicks
gets back, which I don't agree with. Put goddamn Jacoby Ellsbury on the bench. Frazier's better than Ellsbury. It's pretty freaking simple. It's not rocket science. I know Ellsbury's owed a lot of money, but that is your fault in the front office, not your team's fault. Gregorius played great. I'm still concerned about their starting pitching. Given the moves they made to shore up their bullpen, like you said, it shortens a game. They go 5, and you have a great chance. Go 6, you have an amazing chance with that bullpen. That being said, you got Severino, who's been lights out, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Not obviously not Sale level and stuff, but he's definitely in the mix for at least consideration in like top 5 AL voting in the Cy Young, I would say. But he's young. When gets into the heat of the pennant race, how's he going to handle that? The increased innings, how's he going to handle that? There's a lot to be said with that, given, they picked up Jaime Garcia to possibly go 6-man rotations. You see Montgomery struggle of late. CeCe had a good run, but he's even getting hit around a bit. And the big thing that a lot of people don't talk about is, sure, the Rays are playing great. Well, not great. They're playing well. Boston's playing really well. But Baltimore's hitting all of a sudden, which they weren't doing earlier. That's big. So, and then Toronto's even playing better because I remember, they're 10.5 out now. But, heck, when you put them in their grave, and you can't deny that part, they were, 15-plus out right out they were a gigantic mess out the gate. So they always, are a challenge. So the fact the Yankees have to play in that division, especially down the stretch, could be very, very interesting. I do agree. I think they get one of the wild card spots, but I'm still not confident in that starting rotation hanging on. Severino can't do it all on his own. Sonny Gray is gigantic. There's no question in that. That's going to help a ton. But it's suspect. And, heck, you even saw it in Sonny Gray's first start. Like I said, you got Headley at first and Todd Frazier at third. The defense, they have 3 errors in the first inning or something. It's not a great defense right now. There's a lot to be concerned about, but at the same time, they're winning, so you can grade the concern. Since you did bring up the Gary Sanchez thing, one last thing. What makes me angry about that is, sure, he's struggling behind the plate. Last time I checked, Joe Girardi was a very good defensive catcher in his day. Why can't you work with your catcher instead of benching him and making him feel bad? Because the New York media is going to blow this thing up bigger than it needs to be instead of just saying, hey, he's young. Going to give him a couple of days to clear his head. That happens all over baseball where you don't even hear about it. But it's New York, so it's going to blow up. Go work with your kid. It's simple. That part frustrates me. But, I basically agree with what you're saying. It's just I'm a little worried about them. They should take a wild card, but as we will talk about, this wild card rate is really tight.
Oh, it's super tight right now. We talked about it, a couple months ago, and I said when I basically said that teams won't sell, and we saw that with the Royals. Now they've kind of, they've lost 7 out of their last 10. The Rays are kind of treading water a little bit. But you get the Yankees there; they're in the top spot. They're plus 2.5 over the Royals and the Rays. And then you got 3 or 4 teams that are within 4, which is the Mariners are 1. Orioles, like you said, they've won 8 out of 10. They're 1.5 back. They're 56 and 56, which is insane. But they're crushing at home, so that's what they normally do. Twins are 2.5 back, but I think we both think that we kind of predicted that one, and I don't think we're geniuses to predict that, but they're kind of done. The Angels are 3 under 500. They're 3 back. Even the Rangers are 500, 504 back. So this race is crazy. Give me your thoughts and give me the 2 teams that are going to win it.
The interesting part about this race, it's because teams like, say, Seattle, even the Angels in Texas, these 3 teams, when we went over the standings last month or something, we didn't even consider these guys really in the wild card. We were just like, okay, you guys need to sell, rebuild. The Astros won the West. These guys are doing this in this wild card. Just go away. But the Mariners, they went out and made that Yonder Alonso move, which could be gigantic. The loss of King Felix, I don't think is that big because really what has King Felix done? He's not the King Felix of old. Sure, it hurts to have a guy in the rotation with experience that can throw a good outing out there. As a whole, it's not as dramatic to me as it is for other people. The interesting one to me is going to be Kansas City. They are playing really good baseball. It's just the inconsistency with their offense that really worries me. I don't expect much from their starting rotation. They have a bunch of guys that have overachieved or just kind of done what you thought they'd do. Nothing special to me. It's that offense that when they went on their run, they were just storming through people. That's what got them where they are. That's what got them to be buyers again. And they have to win, like we said. So also, out of all these teams, besides maybe you could say Texas, Kansas City, that nucleus has been here. They know what it takes in that stretch run to play to where they need to play. Baltimore, I still don't trust their pitching as far as you can throw it. They're going to fall because if you can't score 10 runs a game, you're not going to win enough. I like Kansas City to sneak in there. If not, my boys from Tampa are going to take it. But I think Tampa and New York are going to battle it out, and one of them is going to eliminate the other just because I think New York's going to get beat up enough in that AL East. Kansas City, I think, takes the other one down. What about you?
Okay, I like that. Just a quick note here. I was kind of laughing at it just looking at the whole standings and where everyone was. What a start for the White Sox. And how did Rick Hahn play this perfectly where, like, he gave his fans, like, 2 months of good baseball, and then they've lost 24 out of their last 30, and it's probably even worse than that, but I just kind of want to mention that. Yeah, I think the one thing your point about the Rays is perfect. I wonder, and it was reported, I think, by Mark Tompkin, which is the Rays beat guy, one of the Rays beat reporters, that they're not bringing up Honeywell anytime soon. I wonder whether they have to do that, especially now. I just saw that Alex Cobb is going on the DL, so I wonder if they rethink that. He's pitched well lately. I mean, we know he has the talent. We saw it in the Futures game. Go ahead.
Did you see they brought up Blake Snell again, though?
I didn't see that. So, okay.
They brought up Snell which really makes me wonder, what the heck are they doing with Honeywell?
So they're taking their time. And I think for Blake Snell, we'll get another couple, daily fantasy nights where people expect him not to walk 5 guys, and then he does. But he somehow will luck out and strike out like 8. So if he could ever harness his command, that's another story for the offseason for us to talk about with your Tampa Bay Rays. But the Yankees are going to get in. They 100% are. The Felix point. Yes, and I've talked about it ad nauseum. He's pitched for a long time. He's almost like a high school. He's almost like an NBA player out of high school where they've been playing since they're 18. They're only 32, but they've been in the league for 14 years. He's literally been in the league for 12 years. So he's got more innings, even though this is some pitcher's prime. His prime was 27 to 20 to 29 or 26 to 28, whatever it was. So, but he's still better than the guys they're going to be pitching because Smiley's out, and so that does hurt them. And I really wanted them to make it just so we could sort of be right about our prediction. I think I'm going to go with the Yankees and the Rays. And the reason why I'm doing that, even though the Rays are playing a lot, I just don't think the Royals are very good. They traded for Melky. This could be a hot take. They traded for Melky. Their lineup's a little better. Moustakas is a beast. Hosmer, I've been kind of wrong about him. He's righted the ship in terms of, hitting for a little bit more, not as much ground ball percentage. There was a graph. If you look at his graph out there on Fangraphs, it's gone way up. So that'll be interesting. I think the Rays are going to just squeak in. I think Archer's awesome. I think their rotation's better. See if they bring up Honeywell. A couple of their bats came back to earth a little bit, but they've still stayed in it. So this is a big, rest of the month for them, because as I look at their schedule, and if I pull it up real quick, I probably should have had this prepared here, but I think they have the better team to get there. Now they have a big 4-game series, the Indians coming up, but then they have, 4 against Toronto, 3 against Seattle, 3 against Toronto, and then at St. Louis, at Kansas City. So that series at the end of the month, I mean, we will talk about that series. It's going to be a huge series. If they can win 2 out of 3 in KC, That's pretty big. And then, they have White Sox, Minnesota, Baltimore 7 times, Red Sox. So that's that beginning, that like end of August to beginning September, it will be huge for them because they should beat those teams. They should. So I've got the Rays and the Yankees.
Fair enough. We kind of did talk about the Yankees, but we didn't really hit on Judge. What do you want us to talk about Aaron Judge real quick?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. I mean, he came back to earth. He's striking out 40% of the time. It's very, I haven't been able to look at it in depth a little bit. I'm sure he's swinging at more balls outside the strike zone. I'm sure that percentage went up. I should have looked at it before. I didn't have time to look at it, but he's going to be fine. Now, this is for our off-season talk, with fantasy, which is going to be probably mostly fantasy when the winter meetings are over, is where do you take him? I mean, it's kind of like a hot take now. Obviously, you're taking Trout 1 in fantasy, but he's kind of gone down the list a little bit, and you're probably not taking him 2. You're probably going, an Altuve, a Correa, even a George Springer, maybe not George Springer that high, but you're talking one of those guys. You're talking Charlie Blackmon in a contract year. It's going to be interesting when we do get into that fantasy talk, where he ends up, in that top 10 of picks.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on Judge, we'll move on, is people are freaking out over this, and they need to calm down because how quickly they forget the slump that Cody Bellinger had for about almost a month. Like, he was cold. He was very cold. But no one really cared about that because the Dodgers were rolling. So people are noticing this Judge thing. Imagine where the Yankees would be without a guy like Judge or Didi Gregorius or stuff like that. So they need to just calm down. His numbers as a whole are still better than Cody Bellinger's, the guy that it's not fair to compare to, but that's what we're going to do all year. We're going to compare the two. And it's just a slump. Every player goes through a slump unless your name is Mike Trout, basically. So, it's just going to happen.
Yep.
All right. Something we did talk about a month ago, and it's actually come out in full force. You got the New York Post and other places writing about it now because Noah Syndergaard has actually said it with his flowing blonde locks and his mouth himself. He wants to pitch come early September. What are your thoughts on that?
Stupid. I understand this is the quote that kind of hit me here. And speaking of the Mets, Cespedes and Conforto with dongs. I have them both very excited. Decent start. This is quote from Syndergaard. This is the first time I've been injured, so I'm itching to get back out there. That's great. You should be itching to get back out there. You're a baseball player. You want to pitch. Right thing to say. Then he goes, whether it's September and when we're in it or not, I want to get out there and compete because I'm just getting bored. Not the worst thing to say. I'm not going to go out there and hammer him for saying I want to be there for my teammates and I want to get that ball and I want to be the ace and yada, yada, yada. But they need to be cautious here. I don't care. He says if I'd go 9 months without competing in a meaningful game, I don't want to go that. I don't want the hangover and get rusty, etc. I understand that whole thing. But at the same time, this is your guy. This is your stud. You need him to be healthy for next year. They traded for A.J. Ramos last week, so they're clearly saying we're going to be in it next year. The Nationals window is ending. We want to hit that window and end that window as soon as possible. We still got the guys to do it. So I hope they keep him out. I hope they don't pitch him. But knowing the Mets and knowing Syndergaard, and he's probably going to get his way, he's going to be out there, but I don't think it's the right decision. I understand his whole rustiness. You got the whole winter. You have a month and a half of spring training. You'll knock off the rust pretty quickly in 2018, Noah. Sit this one out, and let's worry about February when we get there.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's absolutely pointless. A team that is pointless, but to no surprise, because it's a team that does not know how to control their starting pitchers, let alone any player physically. So, don't even pitch the rest of the year. You have no chance of the playoffs. If anything, tank it more and get a better draft spot next year and come back healthy because this team's going to need you. a Syndergaard and DeGrom 1-2 punch is phenomenal. Heck, I saw a video today. Matt Harvey was throwing live batting practice in New York, so they're trying to bring him back now. It's just they can't get out of their own way on what they do with their players, and it's horrible what they do in New York.
I don't care what they do with Matt Harvey. That train has gone by. He may get his form back. I just don't think he cares enough. He's almost like legit. Not to bring up bad memories here. He's like the Jay Cutler almost of baseball. It just looks like he doesn't care. He just has like a punchable face. And Noah Syndergaard's the guy. Harvey, I mean, he's got 1 year after this. They're better off him going Tommy John again and just being out next year. Sorry about that. Okay. I thought this next topic was an interesting one, and I make fun of Cardinals fans all the time with the baseball best fans argument where they won't trade Yadier Molina for Bryce Harper, and they won't do this, they won't do that. We have some fun with those guys, but I thought this article was pretty interesting, and there were a couple articles that were inside of it, but there were quotes from it that you needed. And the question is, have the Cardinals lost their way? Now they've gone back to 500, but have they lost their way in terms of quote unquote the Cardinal way? What would you think about this article and some of the things that were written?
It's very interesting because it just goes to show you, in my opinion, the stuff that reporters will put together when your team is struggling. Because to me, I don't watch the Cardinals religiously like Cardinals fans do, and these reporters that cover them, I get it. I've heard the Matheny gripes forever, and I agree with him. He makes so many decisions. I just have no clue what he's doing out there. He was a really, really, really good defensive catcher. But as a manager, I think he walked in at the right time and took over where La Russa left off and kind of fed on it a little bit. And he should have done what like Barry Switzer did and learned when to get out when he still could with the Cowboys before it went bad. One thing they are doing correctly, if we want to take a positive spin on this, they continue to find something in the minor leagues that no one cares about to just demolish the baseball. Tommy Pham, Paul DeJong are killing it. But as a whole, we kind of hinted at this actually when they signed Dexter Fowler. That was not a Cardinals thing to do, a long-term deal to a guy like Fowler. That's not what they do. You got to look at their pitching. Their pitching doesn't have like a Carpenter or a dominant Wainwright like they used to have. There's just a lot of little things they don't have. And the article is really good because it shows they're not doing the fundamental things. They used to be great at defense. Their defensive numbers, like Fangraph stuff, if you want to get into those, aren't there. A lot of things that the Cardinals did do right all the time because they were one of the most fundamentally sound teams in all of baseball. There's no questioning that. They'd run into home runs, but they didn't rely on home runs like a lot of teams do. So in that aspect, yes, you can say they're losing their way. The fact they're still in it shows you, A, either the Central's that bad, the National League as a whole's that bad, or B, maybe it's not the Cardinal way of 5 to 10 years ago, but maybe they have a new identity. And that's what happens throughout the years. And one question I want to pose to you, obviously comment on the Cardinal way. To me, when I was reading this, does this feel to you kind of how it felt at the end of the Francona days? How you said before how they needed a shift because it just kind of got the same thing over and over again. Even though they were playing well, the players just kind of the attitude and the things about it changed. So those are the kind of things I want to ask you.
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit like it. How long? I mean, Matheny's been there since what? 2009 or even before that? I have to.
Yeah, he might have no, because he played with the Giants and he got those concussions.
Yeah, I'll look it up real quick, kind of while I talk here. But so he's only been there for this is his 6th season, so 2012. So I wouldn't say it's like that because Tito was there for 8 years, 9 years, whatever it was, 9 seasons. Not that matters. I understand the whole thing because the story just started off with Molina. This is Instagram. I haven't looked at it. I don't follow a ton of like pro guys or anything on Instagram, but kind of like Carabas did with your boy Sandoval. But he posted a photo because they beginning of the season, when they started playing bad, they like demoted Jose Oquendo. Again, I'm not Oquendo. See, I'm not the name guy, so that's okay. It's no problem. He missing this man right here, secret weapon, old school baseball, something like that. So maybe there's something there. Jose de Jesus Ortiz, who's a St. Louis Post-Dispatch, blasted them. I mean, the Trevor Rosenthal thing in the Mets game in July, not a good look. Didn't cover first base, lost the game because of it. I just kind of laugh at the whole Cardinal Way thing. There's something about it, and I understand people make fun of the whole Patriot Way thing and whatever, and it always goes back to the Patriots, of course. But in a way, St. Louis has been like that. Not that they've won as many World Series, it's as we've won Super Bowls, but they've had consistent success with guys like you just said, never heard of. They're not top prospects. They never have the top prospects. I mean, of course they have one or two here and there, but most of them aren't top 100 guys, and they come out of nowhere and they hit. Like DeYoung, I was going to ask you about DeYoung, whether you thought that because people have been trying to trade him to me for a keeper or whatever, but I just don't believe in the guy. Like sort of like you didn't believe in Diaz at the beginning of the season. You were right about that one. Well, that's neither here nor there. We can talk about him later, but they also are kind of like the Steelers, where they don't have a ton of managers over the last 20, 30 years or whatever it is. So I'm not sure if they'll get rid of them, but you're right. It says in this 25th in base running runs and, negative 5.4, which the Red Sox are off at 2. Defense hasn't been great. I just kind of laugh at the Cardinal Way thing, but I don't know. It is what it is. They still have a chance to make the playoffs if they can somehow, maybe they go get a Jay Bruce from the Mets. It's something that we'll talk about in a little bit, because that's not going to cost anything, and they need a bat because Piscotty and Grichuk haven't been great. So maybe they do have a chance with the Diamondbacks scuffling a little bit, but it's interesting to see kind of the whole Cardinals baseball. Like, it's just that we're not winning, so it's not now the Cardinal Way is broken. Like, it's just because you haven't won.
Yeah, I agree. There is a move that needs to be made if they want to make the run. There's no questioning that. But it's interesting. And one last thing, Jose Oquendo, for those that don't know who he is, he should have been the next manager in St. Louis because, A, everybody did love him. B, they always say catchers make great managers, and sure, Matheny's been really good. A lot of catchers have made great managers. I get it. Oquendo, for a lot of people, I guarantee you will not remember, he actually played a 9-inning game, and in each inning played a different position. He played all 9 positions in one game. This guy was the definition of a super utility player. And I know, like they said in the article, the players loved him, especially the Latin players. And we've talked about kind of Latin influences through trades and stuff. There's a lot to be said about that in a locker room. So that move, I didn't think about it until I read the article, but it makes sense. They should have at least – I don't know why he left. That's something I wish they would have put in the article. I don't know why he's gone, but he needs to at least be around that team for some reason, because
maybe Matheny's threatened.
He should be, because honestly, he does make so many boneheaded decisions I just don't understand. Even just building the lineup make no sense. So I don't know. But enough of the Cardinals. Enough. Let's talk about something positive. Another little guy in Oquendo's shadows, but hits a lot better than Jose Oquendo. We're going to talk Jose Altuve. I know we're 8 days now into August, but the month of July that Altuve had, I could not just ignore. This guy was unbelievable. He finished the month hitting .458, the best since 100 in 2004. Or 2004.
Yep.
Long list of stats I could go over, but I want to kick it to you first. A, was this to you, especially when you think about no Carlos Correa and everything else there? And B, does he have a valid argument to be the MVP?
Oh, I think he absolutely does. I mean, it's really insane what he's done in that, not only that month, but in just the entire year, 364, 424, 570. I mean, For a little guy like him, 16 homers, he's not going to get to 30-30 unless he just absolutely tears the cover off the ball in for the last few months. But he probably will steal around 35 bases. It would be more than last year. And he's just kind of progressed year after year where, it started up and he kind of was okay to 2012, 2013. In 2014, he goes 341, doesn't hit it for a ton of power, but steals 56 bases. Now all of a sudden he's in for power. I mean, that month is stupid. If you look at that, you look at the article on Fangraphs, I mean, it's kind of funny to see that Mike Trout is on it like 4 times, which is kind of funny to me. Even Puig, I remember Puig back when that month was awesome. We thought he was going to be incredible, and he just okay. But, to strike out less than 8.5%, 485 average. I mean, I think he was batting like 500 before, like maybe on July 29th, and then he had a couple like stinkers. So it is really out of control, especially when you're in a sort of the same sentence as Barry Bonds in a couple of the different stats. He's incredible. The whole MVP thing, we'll have to talk about that in depth. I'll have to look at it. And I saw a tweet last night that kind of said, could Mike Trout win MVP when missing 6 weeks this year? Which is interesting because obviously Judge, we kind of said he was going to win it. And now all of a sudden, he's like we talked about, he's striking out 40% again. He's come back to earth. He could still win it. I know Peter Gammons threw out George Springer. I don't think that's going to happen. This MVP vote is going to be very interesting now that Judge is, like I said, has come back to earth. He'll probably still win it, but I do think Altuve definitely does have a chance. Like you said, it's too bad Correa got hurt. It really is, because he was well on his way there because he started off so slow. He was well on his way. This little guy is just incredible, and the guy, joy to watch, Bubba.
Yeah, no, I love watching him, and it's just interesting because for those that haven't read it, go check it out on Fangraphs. It breaks down because the MVP talk just based on the fact, the old theory, you have to be on a winning team, except the year A-Rod won it. You have to have over 100 RBIs. Well, only an X amount haven't had 100, and Altuve probably won't have 100. You got to have the home runs, this, that, and the other. So that's why it seems like a no-brainer. Sure, he should be in there. But when you look at the idiots that vote for the awards, there's a group of them that literally just look at stats. They don't look at the total picture. And that's why I wanted to mention the month of July, he did a lot of that without Carlos Correa and or George Springer, which to me makes that even more impressive, because when it was Springer leading off, you had Altuve second, Correa third. Okay, he's in between two guys at their time were also MVP candidates. They disappear. He moves to the 3 spot, a little 5'6" guy. That might be too tall. And he's playing like he's Aaron Judge or a Mike Trout. So I think that's awesome. I think breaking down the MVP is something we should do in the upcoming weeks, because I also think Mike Trout has an argument, and I'm looking forward to that, because since he's come back, he has been just in a DraftKings sense, he's getting double digits every night. It's ridiculous. He is an automatic double digit at least 5 or 6 days a week. It's stupid what he does. The
whole voting thing is certainly changing too, because you're getting a lot of the older guys out of there. I mean, even, I listened to the Section 10 podcast with Carabas, and it's the Red Sox podcast, and they had Dan Shaughnessy on. And he basically said he doesn't throw. He doesn't look at anything. Like, he's like, I look at OBP. I've kind of brought that into my thinking. But he's looking at ERA. He's barely looking at WHIP. He's really, really just not looking at anything. So a lot of those older guys will go away. You'll get the younger sabermetrics, advanced stats guys in here, and it'll be more. I think it'll be more fair to kind of everyone that they look at the whole package rather than just look at his average and say, well, he only batted 280. Well, yeah, but his OVP was 440. And that's kind of what you're getting with. You could see that with Judge too this year, where his average is now below 300, but his OBP is 424. So he's still getting on base.
We'll revisit that later.
Yeah, but away from one player now, Bubba, and onto a full team that is crushing the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, it hasn't been seen like this for literally the 50-game stretch in the last 105 years. They've won 43 out of the last 50. Hasn't been done since John McGraw's Giants. I'm sure that guy was an incredible manager. Guys named Tilly, Heine, Rube, and Hooks. I mean, what 1,900 name those are. I mean, that's great. But and Kershaw's been out, and they've circumvented this new 10-day DL. Tell me, and I stress this all the time. My Dodgers and your enemy. Tell me about these guys and just how incredible they have been.
It's amazing. As much as I'm supposed to hate the Dodgers and I don't like them by any means, you can't ignore what they've accomplished. It's crazy. They start out 78-32. That is just asinine. They're on pace for 115 wins. I think the record was 122, and they don't of course, we don't care about that. We want to win it all. That's what they're all saying. But you look at it, and what they're doing is really, really impressive because they had a run like this back in 2013 where they went 42-8. And in that time span, they had a better batting average. They scored 4.88 runs a game, but they did that on 44 homers. This go-round, they have 96 home runs in that 50-game span, averaging 5.5 runs a game. Like, the best part was that game against the Mets, where this article kind of came from. They were down 3-0 early, and then they went and hit 5 home runs in an inning off of Seth Lugo. It's just stuff that's just crazy. You got Bellinger, who's been amazing, but then people don't even really talk about Chris Taylor, who just looked like a minor league throw-in from Seattle, and this guy is just on fire. He's clutch. He's hitting .314 overall on the year, leading off a lot, plays infield and outfield for him. They're just getting it done from everywhere. When we thought Logan Forsythe would be the big addition, no, he hasn't done anything. It's been Chris Taylor. You got guys like Chase Utley taking a utility role, and when he plays, he does damage. Puig, he's not hitting for average, but he has more home runs than he has in his entire career already. It's just very, very impressive. Seager's looking like, he was Rookie of the Year last year, MVP voting. He's making a run during this hot streak to get back in the discussion at least. I don't know if he started out slow. It's darn impressive. And then you throw in a guy like Yu Darvish to go with hopefully a Clayton Kershaw that's healthy later and a pretty good rotation overall, that as long as they can – their biggest question mark to me is their middle relief, because as long as you can hand that ball to Kenley Jansen, you are gold. And that's where a guy like Watson's going to come into play big time. It's very impressive because a lot of these games they have made look so easy. And the record's 116 wins, not 122. But it's outstanding what they've done. Just crazy.
I caution to say, because I'm watching MLB Network before this, and Dan O'Dowd, former Rockies GM, and maybe a couple others, I'm not sure. I know he was the Rockies GM. He basically said that they don't. He doesn't see, like Plesac said, that they need to win this year. They're built to win this year. Anything but winning the World Series would be a disappointment. And Dan O'Dowd kind of said, no, it's fine, whatever. They have to win this year. You say what you want about the LA fan base. If those fans don't hold them accountable for what they did this year, then they're the 2001 Seattle Mariners, where they just had a great regular season and that's it. The difference between them and other teams like the Nationals and the Red Sox, where the Nationals probably only have a 2-year-ish window, and then the Red Sox have probably the window is 3 years, where it's Chris Sale's contract. Sure, we could re-sign him, but it's probably his contract, because our farm system isn't there. They literally traded a legit prospect in Willie Calhoun. Granted, he didn't have a position, so they could give him up for a rental. And we saw the prices of rentals. Granted, it's a starting pitcher. It's Yu Darvish, huge, but it's a rental. Still a rental. Still a lot to give up. They kept Walker Buehler. They kept Alvarez. They kept Vertigo. So they have their guys, set for years. One thing I'd caution is this Clayton Kershaw back issue is a little scary. again, he's kind of like Felix Hernandez. Not obviously, he's much better than Felix Hernandez. He came up when he was 19 as well. 30, almost 31 years old. His back issue's scary. I mean, this could creep up quick. And if this happens every year, granted, they've built a nice rotation where they have depth and they can wait. They don't have to worry about it. The scary thing in terms of actually kind of putting out there a window for them, and without Kershaw, it's obviously not as good as it should be. And this is again another hot take. They need him to win. They do. So if they don't have Kershaw, the window could be shorter. I'm worried about this back thing for him, and not for this year, but to kind of say what the Dodgers' window is to win a World Series. So they really need to win, not only this year, but they could go on a little dynasty run here. And I know it's tough in baseball, but they really could.
Yeah, you can't all be the Red Sox and the Giants. I understand that. But I agree. I've mentioned it on other places that the back thing is serious, way more serious than people want to, I think, let on, because those are no joke. Like you said, Darvish, great chance he's gone. And, Wood came out of nowhere. He's pitched great. Rich Hill could get a blister by walking down the street probably and touching a street light. You don't know what you're going to get, so you got to run with it while you can. The bats are pretty good, but as a whole, I agree. It's not just this year, but you have a small window. I agree with that.
Yeah, just smaller than you think. But go ahead with Yonder.
All right. The Mariners, we mentioned earlier, are trying to get that wild card because obviously the AL West is out of range. So we talked about Yonder Alonso coming up at the trade deadline, like the Yankees would be a good fit. Someone needs to grab him. He went nowhere. Well, he got shipped to Seattle for minor leaguer Boog Powell. What are your thoughts on this one?
Nothing there for. I like Seattle kind of going for it a little bit, even though they didn't give really much up there. It's obviously a strict rental for 2 months. I mean, maybe they could re-sign him. I caution with Yonder. We mentioned him in May when he had 14 homers through there. He's batting like 290. He's having a great start to the year. He's slowly gone down. He's got 8 homers since in the last 2.5 months. His average has gone down. I think what really cautioned me is if you go look at his 2007 kind of rolling WOBA and rolling fly ball percentage, it is kind of staggering where he started. So his fly ball percentage, like all the way in the end of May when he had, almost 14 homers, was at like 63%. And it has slowly gone down to a bottom point of like 25%. So that's staggering, and it tells you why he's not hitting any homers anymore. So it's a fine trade for the Mariners. They need a first baseman. Valencia hasn't been great. I'm not high on Vogelback, but I thought he'd be a better player than he was. Not sure they gave him the chance, but he really didn't get a chance. So that first base production, I think, was maybe the worst in the league. One of the worst in the league for the whole position, for the position as a whole. So definitely an upgrade there for them. He's in the lineup tonight, batting second. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, the fly ball percentage is going down that much in 2.5 months is staggering, especially where he's a free agent after the year.
Definitely.
And of course, I just got rid of that thing. So the next one, Bubba, is sort of the non-waiver trade deadline. And I do have a question. I should have asked it in the wild card thing, but I'll ask that after until I get what you think here. You got Jay Bruce, you got Verlander who went through. What do you think about those two and maybe a couple others and where they could possibly land, before the August 31st waiver trade deadline?
First thing I want to say is people that are taking the clickbait when they announce every player that cleared waivers, just so you know, every player on every roster goes on waivers this time of year. So when they clear, that doesn't mean anything. That means, a team didn't want to pay for it, because if a team claims them, then it's a one-on-one trade option. You get like X amount of time, and you got to make a deal or you retract it and they go back to the team. If they clear waivers, the team can trade with anybody, or he goes back to the team. So just the fact that he cleared waivers doesn't mean anything. Like when they're saying Bryce Harper cleared waivers, who gives a shit? Like really, they're all going to be on waivers. So yeah.
Yeah, that was always a big thing back in the day with Manny Ramirez, where it was like the biggest thing in the world. Oh my God, they put Manny Ramirez on the waivers. I can't believe they're going to trade him. It was like the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah, because I saw that blowing up already, and I was like, okay, we need to slow that down real quick. Everyone is going on waivers. Just so you know, Mike Trout probably cleared waivers too, everybody. Just throwing that out there for you.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
So that's not happening. But you'll get some interesting pieces like, a Jay Bruce, who definitely fit a team. He would fit. The Yankees have a crowded outfield, and he's actually, the funny thing, he has like a 10-team no-trade clause, and the Yankees are one of them. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
That really made me laugh. He can still okay it, but they have to get approval for the Yankees. But he would fit in nicely with, some of those wild card teams we talked about. I think he'd be a sneaky play for the Royals because these waiver guys, you're not going to have to give up a lot. And majority of them are going to be free agents. They're rentals. We already saw the rental price last month. It's just going to get cheaper now as we go on. Remember when they picked up like a Brandon Moss for one of their runs, and he just sparked them, a nice left-handed power bat, can play the outfield, stuff they need. That could be a fix because, Alex Gordon, can you keep running him out there every day? I wouldn't if you can get a guy like Bruce. Little things like that can change things. The biggest thing you're going to see, I don't think Verlander's going anywhere. He's a great piece. They're going to still want too much for him, and deservedly so. I think he might be a better guy traded in the offseason because I think he still has another year on his deal. He's one of those that's a better offseason trade where they can kind of open it up and have free reign. What you're going to see a lot of here are kind of utility guys and big-time relieving pieces to help your core. Not like closer pieces, but key pieces for a team, like, say, a Yankees, a sixth-inning guy, or the Dodgers, a sixth-inning guy, stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, yeah, there's lists of everybody that's clearing waivers. That's not happening. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely Jay Bruce and Verlander obviously is the top two. Jay Bruce one is interesting. I did mention the Cardinals when we talked about them. I wonder, I'm just trying to think of teams. I don't really see. I mean, and Desmond being hurt, maybe we're talking about Jay Bruce to Colorado. Wouldn't that be interesting if they really want to make a push? But other than that, maybe even the Astros. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of teams that could possibly be there. Yeah, I agree with you, Verlander. He's got another 2 years after this, I think it is, or it's one and an option. So I don't see. Actually, I think it's 2 years and an option is what it is, which is a ton of money. And I'm not sure. Although the Astros have obviously spent more money than they have, I'm not sure they're willing to spend that amount of money. And that's neither here nor there. But Granderson's another one that obviously will be really cheap. Asdrubal Cabrera will be cheap. Maybe even a Marco Estrada in Toronto. I'm not sure Lance Lynn will get through waivers for the Cardinals, even though he's been pretty lucky in terms of his overall peripherals. But yeah, those are the few guys that I could see. If the Astros go for Verlander, I do wonder what they would have to give up. I feel like it wouldn't be as much as we think because the Tigers just want to regroup. And, there's something for next week that I found in terms of a trade. We'll save it for next week because it is kind of – we got a lot more to talk about a little bit, and it did kind of hit me, and I wanted to be able to read it further about one of the Tigers pitchers as we go forward. But this next one, Bob, I found it interesting when I was kind of looking things up. It just kind of made me wonder where the hell this guy was Ike Davis, and he's now pitching in the A's organization, and he kind of hit their Arizona rookie Dodgers Arizona rookie league. He was up around 88 to 92. Did not know that he was a pitcher in high school, and he was unbelievable in high school. He was like 23-0, 1.85 ERA, striking out 213 batters in 174 innings, mainly a reliever. Went to Arizona State, two-way player, was better as a reliever. I wonder, hey, did the Dodgers find another kind of gold mine there? If he keeps he gets back to his old ways, maybe he's a lefty. He comes in and makes his way, sort of like Rick Ankiel, but instead like as a lefty specialist out of the bullpen. I thought it was just interesting to see that that's where the hell Ike Davis went, to be honest with you. I didn't know where he went.
Yeah, no, he just disappeared off the face of the planet basically, and kind of struck gold, I guess, for a second chance lease on life. Like the article says, the thing he's got going good for him is he's a lefty, which everybody will give lefties chances, it seems like. But they also got to remember he's 30 years old pitching against kids just out of high school or very, very young college kids just out of the draft, basically, in the Arizona League. So take it with a grain of salt. It'll be interesting to see how he comes back. But, yeah, I had no idea where he was. You sent that little article over, and it was a good chuckle for those wondering, the few guys that still have Ike Davis jerseys around their house. That's where he's at. All right, let's get into our prospect talk. We'll get at it. We're going to mention some guys that have got the call or should get the call shortly. The Braves kind of made a surprising move. They called up one of their top pitching prospects, Max Fried, from Double-A. Fried was with the team in spring training. Like I said, started in Double-A, was in Single-A last year. Was one of their top prospects. Got him in the San Diego Padre trade for Justin Upton a couple years ago. He struggled a ton this year. 19 starts, 2-11, a 5.92 ERA. But he does have 85 Ks and 86 2/3. They're worried that his velocity's been down. His curveball hasn't snapped as much as they'd like. A lot of stuff to kind of get you going. Why'd they bring him up? But I think it goes to show you this is their rebuild. Let's get him some action now because their idea was to have him next year. He's going to work out of the bullpen. He's not going to be starting, so he can kind of be a lefty specialist or a long relief guy to get some exposure. I just wanted to bring up Max Fried for anything there. Do you have anything on Max?
Very surprising to me that they brought him up. I mean, I know he's 23 years old and a half years old. Lefty, 6'4" guy. He's a pretty big guy. I thought it was interesting. I'm not sure the command is there. I figured they'd bring him through the organization a little bit more, let him go to AAA. They did it. They brought Sims up. I don't know whether they're trying to showcase him or I'm not sure, but the peripherals are better though, Bubba, than his ERA. I mean, 4.09 FIP. So I think that they're trying to get his feet wet a little bit. He's still got a lot of value. Got a nice fastball, good curveball, and command for some reason. He's walking 4.5 per 9 this year, so he does have to improve that. But interesting prospect to watch going down the road.
Most definitely. Another one that just got called up, and I was super excited when he got called up until I read about what was going to take place with him. But Heimer Candelario from the Tigers, who was a part of the deal sent over to the Cubbies for Avila and Wilson, he's a big-time bat. Everyone says, well, it's a good move for him because there is no reform. We talked about him last week, potentially playing every day as, they put Castellanos to the outfield. Tons of power, insane power with this guy. Averages, so here and there. But the weird thing is, and I don't understand why they did it, just flat out said he's going to be another bench piece because we need more bench pieces. I am lost by this. Why would you bring him up to limit his at-bats? I don't get it. What are your thoughts on Candelario?
I don't get it either. He's got good power. He's got he walks a good amount. I don't get it. I don't know why you wouldn't just let him hit, let him stay down there, and wait till September 1st when either Toledo's out of the playoffs, if they're even in the playoffs, or the rosters expand after that. Let him hit, let him get his feet wet a little bit. But I don't know, maybe they're bringing him up to kind of have Miggy and V-Mart mentor him a little bit. But yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me. Sort of he was always the guy that was going to be traded in a trade. Like I said, at the beginning of the season when we did talk about some of the prospects for the Cubs, he was always that guy because he's blocked by Rizzo and he's blocked by Bryant. There's no DH. It'd be interesting to see sort of, how many at-bats he does get for the Tigers, but what a waste if they keep bringing him up and just let him play twice a week. What a waste, like you said.
Yeah, total waste. One I'm really excited about. There was rumblings of it last week, and our big boy Rick Hahn, he threw it on the table today. Ronaldo Lopez, one of the big pieces in the Adam Eaton deal from the Nats, will be coming up and making a start on Friday. I'm sure he got a little time with the Nats last year, but he's pretty much been a minor leaguer, one of the top prospects, one of like the 75 that the White Sox have. And he's been outstanding. 22 starts, 3.79 ERAs, thrown 121 innings, 131 strikeouts in 121 innings. For a young kid, he's got 49 walks, hard sinking stuff. Really talented. I know we both talked about it in the offseason when the trades were happening, that this is the piece that I like more than Giolito. The White Sox are finally going to get to see him. They're moving Pelfrey to the pen. We saw Moncada come up with them last week. I think we're going to start kind of seeing a little more of this coming on. I believe it's Delmonico. The outfielder came up last week. He's hitting well for him. You're going to start seeing these guys come up, and I think it's pretty cool. What do you got on Ronaldo Lopez?
Yeah, I like Ronaldo a lot. He's done everything he needs to do in the minors. He's gone through from rookie ball to A, to high A, to double A, to triple A last year even, and then got 44 innings in the big leagues. Now he's been at triple A the whole season. The great thing about him is where the whole league and every team is so crazy about an innings limit for all these pitchers. You know, he had 150 last year. So he's already on that progression. He's probably going to, I would guess, throw another, depending on how he does, if he stays here the rest of the year, 6 weeks-ish, might get 7-8 starts, whatever it is, maybe even a little bit more than that. Maybe he gets to 50, maybe he gets to 45. So now we're looking at about 165, 170, 175. We're getting a nice progression here for him as they build toward that 2019-2020 window to start really, really competing, not only in the AL Central, but competing maybe for a pennant in 2020, 2021. So they've got a perfect kind of progression with Ronaldo Lopez.
Definitely.
Couple more, Bubba. I put these on there. I think these two could be up soon. Dominic Smith for the Mets, having another great year. They just traded Duda to the Rays. I would think that he's got to be coming up soon. Alderson said last week he's not far. I don't know what they're waiting for. He's another guy that they've kind of been perfect through the progression. He's been at every level that there possibly is for the Mets. Last year, 14 homers, batted .302. This year, he has 16 homers, batting .330 with a .386 OBP. He only strikes out about 17% of the time, not awful. So I would think that he'd come up and get 6 weeks of major league at-bats to see what they really have before deciding what to do at first base in the offseason. I mean, I'm not sure. It's interesting to see he hasn't been, and of course, his overall rank is 73, so he never been like a top prospect. He's been in the top 100, a few times, but we should see him pretty soon, Bubba.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying, well, let's temper expectations because Las Vegas is a bandbox and all this stuff. That's fine, but so is most of the PCL. So I don't worry too much about that. I think the average is the part that I love because that's that's sort of ballpark dependent, but at the same time, not nearly as much as the power. And this past month in July, he was one of the minor league players of the month. Just in the month of July alone, he led the PCL in runs at 28, second in extra base hits at 21, had 79 total bases, slugged .725, top 5 in RBIs with 26, and he had 8 home runs in the month of July. And he also reached base in 24 of 26 July games, including 16 multi-hit games. The guy can hit, and that's the bottom line. And you're on a Mets team that's rebuilding. Bring him up with Rosario. They have whispered that he should be up soon. But, yeah, they also, like you said, they've been talking about how they're just going to hold off and wait. The kid is a hitter, and I'm looking forward to seeing him. I think if you want to put a fantasy spin on it, he could be a sneaky guy to throw in towards the stretch run and get some playing time in that September month against some bad pitching. Yeah,
last year he had 14 homers in Double A with Binghamton. So, it's not like if he had like 28 homers this year or something like that in the PCL, then maybe you're going to temper expectations a little bit and say, hey, he's in Las Vegas. He's, clearly that's why he's gone up so much, but he's been pretty consistent in only like 50 less at, plate appearances in AAA in that bandbox. So there's not much difference there. Next one, Willie Calhoun. I mean, this kid can hit. He has no position, but that's why the Dodgers could part with him to get Darvish as a rental. He had 23 homers with AAA before he left the Dodgers AAA. Doesn't strike out a ton, only like just under 12%. That's just under 300. Well, he went to the Rangers. He's already got 4 home runs and 26 plate appearances in 6 games, and batting .280, which, I mean, off to a ridiculous start. One guy we didn't mention at that trade was Mike Napoli. They could trade him, which would open a spot for Willie Calhoun. I think that will happen. I think Calhoun will probably be up within, I would guess, 2 to 3 weeks. I've already stashed him in my 20-team dynasty, so I'm kind of excited. Not dynasty, 20-team keeper for my playoff run. So hopefully he gets called up. But what do you got on Willie Calhoun?
Yeah, you said it. We talked about it a bit last week. He's just a pure hitter. But some of the good stuff, definitely small sample, 6 games. But a lot of the Rangers guys have been watching him. They put him in the field, and they say they love what they've actually seen with his glove, better than like a lot of the reports were. I believe their GM even went and watched him play a few times. And what's really intriguing to me is for a power bat, young kid, I know it's only 25 plate appearances, but he has only struck out 1 time in those 25 at-bats, which for a power-hitting youngster, that's very impressive. That's very impressive. The kid is super talented, and I'd like to see him come up just to hang out with some of the veterans like a Beltre and some of those other guys just to get some experience before they disappear and start the rebuild in full.
Yeah, that rebuild should be interesting. On to the DL news. Again, only a couple this week. Salvi Perez, that's another blow to the Royals that we didn't even talk about. Hopefully they think it's going to be 10 days, but it could be a little bit more. We talked about King Felix. He's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks, right bicep tendonitis. And that's, I wouldn't say big loss, but I think it's a bigger loss than people think because the guys that are replacing him are just awful. Another big loss to the Mariners just came out. David Phelps, elbow issue. They're hoping it's only 2 to 3 weeks. That's another one that hurts their bullpen a lot. They gave up a couple decent prospects for him. Matt Shoemaker, season-ending elbow surgery, not good for him. Probably be out most of next year, if not all of it. So we might not see him for a year or two. And then Michael Fulmer to the DL with ulnar neuritis in his right elbow. That is tricky. That is really tricky. He hadn't pitched well in the past month or so. That's just not good, especially for that Tigers rebuild. And that's the AL DL news. Bubba, what do you got in the NL?
Not too much for once. We got Kyle Freeland of the Rockies. He left with a groin injury his last start, but he threw a bullpen on Sunday and felt no discomfort at all. So they're hoping that's a sign of good things, and he's back pretty much when he's first available. Brandon Belt, I was watching this one live, got hit in the head with a curveball, thank goodness. But he has a history with concussions. He's on the 7-day concussion DL, and he looked like he had zero clue where he was when he was on the ground. He wasn't moving for a little bit. They had to carry him out. It looked bad. So that's something to keep an eye on there with Belt. Again, they're out of it. There's zero reason to rush him back. You don't rush concussions back. That's what they did with him before, and that's why he had a relapse then. Just there's no need to rush this one back. And last but not least, Edison Volquez, we talked about a few weeks ago with injury. He is out with he's having Tommy John. So he's going to miss the rest of this year, obviously, and might miss most of next season, especially if the Marlins are out of it. There's no need to rush him back. So Volquez getting TJ, and that is your NLDL news.
Okay, on to what to watch for. And before we the second series is interesting, but this series is huge for us. I'm going to say this right now. It's the Red Sox versus at Yankees this weekend after this little 2-game set with the Rays. There's an off day Thursday. We had an off day Monday. Friday has Jaime Garcia versus Erod. Saturday has Severino versus Pomeranz, which will be a good game. I think that's on at like 3 o'clock Eastern time, so that should be an interesting. I'll miss most of that game, unfortunately, because I'll be golfing, but I'll hopefully catch the end of it. Yes, I'll be golfing. There's not many of those days left. Sunday night, you know, they always put them on Sunday Night Baseball, Bubba. Currently, Roster Resource has CC Sabathia versus Doug Fister. If Chris Sale doesn't start that game after having normal rest with the off day Thursday, because he's pitching tonight, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Bubba, my count says that's 4 days rest in a normal 5-man rotation. Yep, you got it. If he doesn't pitch that game Sunday, I am going to go ape shit. I really am. I'm not going to be happy. That's a huge game. You have to beat the Yankees head-to-head. You want to win that division, as long as you beat the Yankees head-to-head, you'll be all right with the rest of what you do. So you, even though Fister's pitched well the last couple times, you pitch Chris Sale in that game and you move Fister back a day and you wait. There's no way they're going to stick to this and pitch Fister. I can't think they're that dumb. Do you think they're that dumb?
You're asking me if I think John Farrell's that dumb, the guy that loves John Farrell as much as you do?
No, but he's not. He's not going to make that decision on his own, and you know that.
I know. Yes, it's a huge series to start with. Sale needs to be in this game because we've mentioned it recently. We are in games that actually matter, and our guys are watching the scoreboards. These are big pushes. When we talked about the AL East on the wild card, one thing I mentioned is, you know, for the Yankees and the Rays, they have to play that division that's loaded. Here's an example. You have a chance to throw Sale against Sabathia. You throw Sale against Sabathia, and you take hopefully 2 out of 3. I like Erod against Garcia, and then that Pomeranz-Severino should be a great game. I'd probably put a nod to Severino in that one, but that should be a really good game. And if Fister does pitch, that's going to be like a 7-hour Red Sox-Yankees game because of all the home runs and walks and pitching changes. It's going to be just horrible. But it's a very big series, especially for the Red Sox, when you can win that game in Yankee Stadium. Like I said, take 2 out of 3 or sweep and literally foot on the throat of your rivals going into the middle of August. So that's a big series.
For sure. And so now the next one is the one I've been kind of trying to figure out here because they had a roster resource at TBD. Cleveland Indians at Tampa Bay Rays. Your Tampa Bay Rays. The Pats right now are Faria versus Salazar. They have Cobb versus Carrasco. Not going to happen, obviously, because Cobb's in the DL. Archer versus TBD. Pruitt versus Kluber. ESPN, as I go and look at it, now they've got Snell versus Salazar, Faria versus Carrasco, so they're pushing Faria back a day. And then Clevinger is that TBD that's going to pitch against Archer on Saturday from what it looks like. I had it mixed up. I thought there might have been a chance that they would call up Honeywell there, but it was actually they just moved Faria back a day and put in Blake Snell, like you said. So that's a good thing. Big 4-game series, really for both teams. I mean, Cleveland, you know, they've kind of been not scuffling a bit, but they lost Andrew Miller. Carrasco's been lit up the last 2 times. Finally, Salazar is back. I thought it was interesting. I heard the Indians GM kind of say that at the deadline we traded for Salazar. So that's an interesting kind of comment there. He's not wrong, but he's just so inconsistent and so up and down. He should be got all the stuff in the world to be, you know, not a Corey Kluber, but he's got all the stuff in the world to be a number 2 pitcher in this league. So they've got 3 of their 4 top guys, and you know the Rays don't. So it's really just Archer and Faria or Faria. Again, I'm the name guy. He's there. Clearly, the Indians have the upper hand in 3 out of the 4 of these games. What do you think about this series for your Rays?
It's very interesting. And on MLB Network right now, they just showed Michael Brantley getting helped off the field. So that's big for the Indians. Yes, the pitching advantage definitely goes to the Indians in this series. as you can see, Kluber's going on the same amount of rest Sale would go on, if you want to point that to the Red Sox, because Kluber's throwing tonight too, but he's throwing on Sunday. So it is doable. The Archer Clevenger is sneaky, because Clevenger, it's like we say, like with Snell and a lot of these young guys, if he's not walking guys, he's actually really, really good and has great strikeout stuff against a team that strikes out a ton. So that's a sneaky matchup, because Archer, we know, pitches great in Tampa Bay, but if Clevenger can keep him in that, if they can steal that game, it's huge. They do need to kind of get some momentum going, because they're hanging on in their division, but they're not running away with it like we thought they would. They need to they need to at least split this series, no doubt. If they can go 3 out of 4 in Tampa Bay, it really hurts the Rays, obviously. And the Indians need to get some positive momentum going into September, into October. So a big start from Salazar and a big start from Clevenger could go a long ways in getting them where they need to go, because that's the other thing is TBD you're seeing. It's been a mix of Clevenger and Bauer and other guys. They haven't had a stable fifth yet. They need that just to have a stable rotation going into the rest of the season.
Agreed. Just do the last one real quick. Cubs at the Diamondbacks. Like I said, Diamondbacks been scuffling a little bit. I believe they've lost 13 out of their last 20. And the wild card is getting closer. The Brewers, the Cardinals are creeping up. I think they're only like 5 back. It's in Arizona. It's in, Coors Light. Taijuan Walker versus Lackey. Corbin versus Lester. Godley versus Arrieta. So you got 3, the Cubs, they missed out on Greinke. It's great. But, we got 3 pretty good matchups there. Lackey's been pitching better as of late. Godley's been good other than the last start. He's pitching tonight. Corbin, again, kind of got roughed up the last start a little bit. I believe it was at the Cubs. But interesting series for the Diamondbacks to kind of right the ship here. They got to start winning, especially at home, where I believe they just crush it at home. They're 36-18. So they got to keep taking those home games, 27-30, on the road. And actually, the Cubs are about the same home road split, and they've won 19 out of their last 30 and 13 out of the last 20. So they're trending up with the trades they've made. What do you think takes this series?
This is a good one, and no offense to your Red Sox and Yankees, I would like to see Godley Arrieta on Sunday Night Baseball. I think that's a sneaky good match.
I would too.
I think it's a sneaky
get the bet earlier.
I think it's a sneaky good matchup for the rest of baseball to see. But it is all the pitching matchups are pretty fair, I'll say, because you don't know what Lester is going to show up and everything. The Diamondbacks obviously have to win to stay in it. The Cubs, to me, are just like the Indians. They need to get some momentum going, because they've been on a really good roll off the break, but they need to become that juggernaut we thought they were, to make us think they can compete with the Dodgers. We need someone to compete with the Dodgers, and I'm not seeing anybody yet. So it's a really good series. I think it'll be fun, and that Sunday game, it'll be really interesting to see how Godley handles that lefty-heavy team, which he actually pitched really well against in Wrigley. So should be a good one.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, that'll do it, Mo. Episode 24 in the books. Any final words?
Man, 24 episodes, Bubba. It's pretty crazy. We're getting almost to the end of the season. I mean, it's playoff schedule, I think, came out the other day or yesterday, maybe even today. So we're getting down to it. It's going to be interesting to see who kind of stays in it and who drops out. I think we kind of hit it with the Royals and the Rays. You didn't go with your Rays, but I did. So it's nice to see you jump off the bandwagon there.
I'm not off the bandwagon. They said they have a chance. I just don't see 3 teams from the AL East. I said it'd be the Yankees or the Rays.
I hear you.
Playoffs, the thing came out today. Starts October 3rd. I believe the World Series starts the 24th. So a full month of baseball in October.
I'll be in Aruba.
Yep. You'll be making a decision that you might regret 20 years from now. Who knows? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But, good stuff as always, everybody. Check us out on Twitter at AroundBasesPod. Subscribe to us on Spreaker and iTunes and SoundCloud. But as always, you can find Mo on Twitter at Boston_Mo. I'm at BDintric. But more importantly, thanks for listening. This was Around the Bases, episode 24. We'll catch you guys next time.
See ya.